Hello and welcome back to TCG Dreamland. Today we're taking a look at Scarlet and Violet base set, taking a little retroactive look. So today I want this video to be kind of an educational video. We're not just going to be looking at the facts. We're going to be discussing why the things are the way that they are. You know, the relationship between the singles market and the sealed market and things like that. So hopefully this will be a little bit educational for you. Now let's start off with the singles. The singles are actually holding up not terrible, all things considered. Obviously, if we look at the 3-month, there was a huge drop-off right after release, which is typical. But then it's actually stayed fairly stable. There is a downward trend. I pulled up the top, how many? 4 cards plus Gyarados. So the top 4 cards in the set plus Gyarados. EX full art I've pulled up, and there is a slight downward trend for all of them, but all things considered, like I said, they're actually holding up fairly well. Now the reason for this, I think, is because not a whole lot of product has been opened. We're going to see in a second. Let's look at the other cards first. I just wanted to show you, as I was saying, you know, slight downward trend, which is typical. The set is still pretty darn new. Let's look at the 1 month for these. So, you know, over the last month, going from 47 down to 37.60. So what is that? You know, less than a 25% decrease. Going from Gardevoir went from 46 down to 35, so an $11. So again, a little less than 25% decrease over the last month. And going from 31 to 22, so that one decreased a little bit more percentage-wise. Gyarados actually went up from release and then has gone down, going from 23 to 17. So actually, percentage-wise, Gyarados hasn't fallen considerably. It's still falling, but, you know, it's a little bit of a downward trend for all of these, but not a huge amount. So singles holding up pretty well. Now, the reason for that is because sealed product, on the other hand, is doing absolutely horrible. Sealed product, LGSs are literally taking a loss on this stuff right now. So if we're looking, I'll pull up the booster boxes, I'll pull up, not the Pokemon Center exclusive ones, but the regular ETBs. Now, MSRP on these is obviously way high. I think these were selling for probably about $120 to $125. If we see on release, they were between 120 and 125, went up to, at one point, 128, and then people figured out how high the hit rates were, and they have dropped considerably since then over the last month, going from about 115 to 106. If we go down here, we can see not those dumb loose pack ones, but we can see a pretty big seller. This seller has 29. 106.22, another seller with 30, the same price. Those are both, you know, sellers with a very high number of sales. So yeah, if you consider the fact that, you know, prices from distributors went up on these, LGSers are probably paying close to $100. And then when you sell on tcgplayer, there's about a 13% seller fee. Plus, then it costs about $10 to ship a booster box. So they are, if they're selling these for 106 shipped on tcgplayer, they're taking a considerable loss on these boxes right now. And then ETBs, which are supposed to have an MSRP of $50, all the way down to, you know, $40 now, which is probably about what they buy them from distribution for. Because of the price increase, they're probably buying them. I mean, I think the price they used to buy them at was between $30 and $35. Probably about $35. Then they would sell them for $40. And now that the MSRP is $50, they're probably paying closer to $40 or so. And so they're basically selling these at the price that they buy them for. And then obviously, like I was saying before, you take out your 14% seller fee and you have to ship it, which I think for an ETB, the box is slightly larger, but it weighs considerably less. But the price to ship one of these is probably still $8 to $10. So yeah, that's a big loss that all these people are taking on sealed product right now. So why is that? Why has the sealed product dropped so much? Well, there's two reasons for that. Two main reasons, and then one underlying reason for those two reasons. So one, I think, is that when the estimated value, so when the estimated value of the cards you get from a box by opening all the packs, when that value is considerably less than the cost of a box, typically there's a lot fewer people opening boxes. There's fewer sales of boxes, less product being opened, because all the people that are trying to open product to make money just aren't buying boxes. You see this a hell of a lot with Magic the Gathering. When an EV is close to or above what the boxes are selling for online, the boxes just start flying off the shelves. Everyone's opening packs, selling cards on tcgplayer. We saw this great case study of exactly this was with, what was that set? The Unfinity. We saw this with Unfinity. People were literally opening tcgplayer accounts, trying to flip Shocklands. It was absolutely crazy, ridiculous. And so this is basically the opposite of what has happened with that. Because they aren't able to open product and make money selling singles, they just aren't opening product. Which has the dual effect of the singles not decreasing significantly in price because there's less supply on the market, but the sealed product drops significantly because no one's buying sealed product. So the singles and the sealed kind of have an inverse relationship in that way, where people aren't opening product, they aren't buying sealed product, so prices are going down. But because product, the singles specifically, aren't being injected to the market, the prices for the singles aren't dropping significantly. Now let's talk about the other thing, which is demand. Because the fact of the matter is, if there was a higher demand for these singles, then prices would be going up, which would increase the EV, and then we wouldn't be seeing this. So prices are stable because of the fact that no one's buying, but also no one's injecting product into the market. It's kind of stable. It's going down slightly, as we saw. But that just shows you kind of the inverse relationship between sealed and singles, how the estimated value has an effect on both the singles and the sealed markets. Now, what is the underlying reason for both of those things? And that comes down to the chase cards. And this is something that I said in my preview of the set, which I'm going to be doing one for Paldea Evolved relatively soon. And I mentioned this for Scarlet and Violet base. I'm sure other YouTubers, especially the ones that are more focused on the collectible aspect of Pokemon, you know, we've all said this, and it's a little bit of a weaker set. There's no big chase cards in the set. I mean, that's kind of evidenced by the fact that the two highest cards in the set are, you know, a new trainer and a new Pokemon. The biggest Pokemon in the set from like an already established, you know, well-known, well-liked Pokemon that could possibly have high demand is Gardevoir. Gardevoir isn't really a big hitter. It's kind of mid-tier. It's not a crappy Pokemon. It's decently liked. It, you know, it did well in Champion's Path. It's a Pokemon that sells well, but it's not a Pokemon that sells great. And so the set was a little weak. Now, there's a lot of things I want to talk about now, especially with, you know, the changes they made in Scarlet and Violet compared to Sword and Shield, and I want to make some comparisons with the Japanese Pokemon market. So We're going to come back to this whole chase card thing, but where should I go from here? I guess what I'm saying with the chase card aspect is that this trend we're seeing with Scarlet and Violet base is not the end-all be-all. This is not how every set going on from now is going to be, because really all they have to do is insert really good chase cards. So if we talk about, let's talk about pull rates and things like that and compare it to the Japanese market. So pull rates, I've talked about this before, the pull rates now are significantly higher for the chase cards. The highest rarity cards are now about 4 to 5 times more common. You typically get one of the highest rarity cards per box instead of per every 4 to 5 boxes, which is more on par with the Japanese market. Japanese market for Pokemon, Digimon, probably not Yu-Gi-Oh, but for Pokemon and Digimon, the Japanese market, that's how it's been for as long as, well, for a long time. I don't know how long it's been like that for Pokemon. Probably quite a long time. But that's how it's been. The Japanese boxes, they're 24 packs. You typically get one of the highest rarity cards per box. And that's how it's been. And they made that how this is now in the US with the English boxes. The only difference is in Japanese, the boxes are also significantly cheaper. So it's kind of a weird thing going on where they made the pull rates higher and more in line with the Japanese boxes, but the price did the opposite. Instead of the price coming down because there's higher pull rates of the really high value chase cards, they didn't decrease the price, they increased the price, which is very strange. So they increased the price and also made the chase cards more available, which is kind of a weird thing. But that doesn't necessarily mean that going forward every set is going to be terrible, because if we look at the Japanese market, just because there's, you know, one of the highest rarity cards per box going on there doesn't mean that every set is terrible. I mean, we look at the set with Iona. Iona, holy crap. That card is going for the equivalent of like $1,000 in US dollars. Like, holy crap. If there was $1,000 Pokemon card that you could just pull out of a box, you better believe that the sealed product would be well over MSRP. $200 a box. You know what I mean? So what it really comes down to is the chase cards in the set. Just because hit rates are higher, just because the average EV is worse, doesn't mean that every set is going to be terrible like this, and the sealed product is just going to tank. Because the fact of the matter is, all they have to do is insert a couple really good chase cards, and these boxes would do fantastic. So, yeah. I guess that's what I have to say about that. So, yeah, I think this set was just a kind of a bad set. People are already saying Paldea Evolved is probably going to be a little bit better. I actually haven't looked at the full set yet. I am going to be doing that soon, so make sure to subscribe if you want to hear my opinions about Paldea Evolved. And hopefully you learned something about, you know, the relationship between sealed and singles. And if you like these kind of analyses, then make sure to subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video.